The Harley Davidson crisis. No one saw coming. Harley Davidson is dying, and no one is talking about it. For decades, Harley has been the king of the road, dominating highways across the US and beyond. A brand built on freedom, rebellion, and raw American power. But now, everything is falling apart. Sales have plummeted by over 50% in the last decade. That's not a slump, that's a full-blown collapse. Even in 2023 alone, Harley's numbers dropped another 7.2% across every major market. North America, down. Europe, down. China, Japan, South America, down. India, a brutal 55.6% drop. And here's the real shocker. It's not just competition from Indian motorcycles, it's not even about Japanese brands taking over. People just aren't buying new Harleys anymore, especially the generation that should be Harley's bread and butter, senior riders. The very people who grew up dreaming about riding a Harley are now walking away from the brand. And if Harley can't win them back, it might be game over. So what went wrong? Why are senior riders, the backbone of Harley's success, turning their backs on the company? And more importantly, can Harley Davidson survive this? The price tag that's driving riders away. Harley Davidson has always been a premium brand, a symbol of status, a statement of success. But now, Harley's prices have skyrocketed to a level that's simply out of reach for many riders. Let's talk numbers. The cheapest Harley you can buy new? The Nightster. Starting at $13,500. Want a back seat and passenger pegs? That's another $1,500. Looking for a full-size touring bike? You're in the $25,000 to $40,000 range easily. And that's before dealer markups, customization, and gear. Now picture this. You're a retired rider living on a fixed income. You've spent decades dreaming about owning a Harley. You walk into the dealership, you see the price tag, and suddenly, that dream feels impossible. Harley isn't making it any easier. They've cut their most affordable models like the old air-cooled Sportsters and Dynas, leaving only high-end bikes that cost as much as a new car. And riders, they're looking at cheaper alternatives. They can buy a fully loaded Japanese touring bike for $10,000 less. They can find a used Harley for a fraction of the price. Or in many cases, they're giving up on riding altogether. The cost of living is rising across the board. Housing, gas, medical bills, everything is going up. And Harley Davidson, they're pricing themselves out of their own market. Used Harleys are killing new Harley sales. There was a time when buying a new Harley was a rite of passage. It was your reward for years of hard work. But now, there's zero incentive to buy a brand new Harley because the used market is flooded. Harleys are built to last. Thousands of low-mileage, perfectly maintained bikes are sitting on the market, often in near-perfect condition. A 10-year-old Harley looks, sounds, and rides almost exactly like a new one. And most importantly, used Harleys cost a fraction of the price. So why would a senior rider pay $25,000 for a new Harley when they can buy a lightly used one for $10,000 to $15,000? And here's the kicker. Harley knows this. They've tried to control the used market by offering dealer trade-in incentives, but at the end of the day, riders aren't stupid. They know they can save thousands by buying from a private seller. So they do. And every time a rider buys used instead of new, Harley loses another sale. This cycle, it's only getting worse. And unless Harley finds a way to break it, their future looks very, very uncertain. The Harley culture problem. Is it too exclusive? Harley Davidson has always been about brotherhood, community. The idea that owning a Harley makes you part of something bigger. But here's the ugly truth. For some riders, Harley culture isn't welcoming. There are Harley-only clubs, Harley-only rides, and in some cases, Harley riders who look down on anyone who doesn't own one. For younger riders, this is a huge turnoff. Millennials and Gen Z grew up believing in inclusivity, not brand loyalty cults. And even some older riders have started to feel the same way. Because what if they can't afford a new Harley? Or what if they prefer a different style of bike? Should they suddenly be outsiders in the riding world? This exclusivity might have worked in the past, but today, it's driving people away. And if Harley doesn't evolve, they could lose an entire generation of riders. The hard truth about Harley's future. Harley Davidson is at a breaking point. Sales are down, the used market is out of control, younger riders aren't buying in. So, can Harley make a comeback? Or are we watching the slow death of one of America's most legendary brands? In the next part, we'll dive into why millennials don't see Harley as their dream bike, the economic reality that's making motorcycles a luxury item, and the one thing Harley needs to do if they want to survive. Harley Davidson has been through wars, recessions, and cultural shifts, but this might be their biggest battle yet. Stick around, because this story is far from over. The millennials aren't coming, Harley's generational problem. Harley Davidson built its empire on blue-collar rebels, military veterans, and free-spirited riders who lived for the open road. For decades, young riders dreamed of owning a Harley. But today, that dream is fading. Millennials, the generation that should be Harley's next wave of loyal customers, aren't buying in. Not now, maybe not ever. This isn't about taste. This isn't about loyalty. It's about money. Millennials grew up hearing stories about their dads and grandpas riding Harleys. They grew up watching biker movies, idolizing the culture, dreaming of the day they could get one, but when the time came, they just couldn't afford it. The cost of living has exploded. Education, housing, rent, groceries, everything is more expensive than ever before. The average student loan debt? Over $30,000. The median home price? Over $400,000. In the past, young riders could save up for a Harley. Today, they're struggling to save for groceries. And here's the biggest problem. Harley isn't giving them any reason to stretch their budget. The old Sportsters? Gone. The affordable Dynas? Discontinued. The cheapest Harley available? The Nightster at $13,500. A Japanese motorcycle with twice the power and better performance? Less than $10,000. Millennials don't hate Harleys. They just don't see the value. And if Harley can't give them a reason to buy, they won't. The death of the middle-class biker. There was a time when Harley Davidson wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a lifestyle. It was for the guys who worked hard all week and rode hard on the weekends, for factory workers, for truckers, for mechanics, welders, and carpenters. But today, the middle-class biker is disappearing. It's not just that bikes are getting more expensive, it's that everything is. The very people who built Harley's empire are now the ones getting left behind. Gas prices are higher, insurance costs are up, wages haven't kept up with inflation. And motorcycles? For a lot of riders, they've gone from a passion to a luxury they can't afford. Back in the day, a blue-collar worker could walk into a dealership and buy a Harley with cash. Today, they're financing them for 7 years. Or worse, not buying one at all. And that's a massive problem, because when Harley loses the middle-class riders who built its legacy, who's left? The problem with Harley's new direction. Harley Davidson sees the problem. They know they're losing riders, and they've tried to fix it. They've redesigned their lineup. They've pushed into electric motorcycles. They've tried to make their bikes lighter, faster, and more high-tech. But here's the issue. They're forgetting what made them great in the first place. Harley riders don't want a plastic-wrapped, computer-controlled sport bike. They want steel and soul. They want big, air-cooled engines that shake the pavement. They want a bike that feels alive. Instead, Harley is trying to compete with brands like Ducati, BMW, and Yamaha. But here's the truth. They can't win that fight. Harley's attempt at a sport bike, the Bronx, canceled. Their attempt at an adventure bike, the Pan America. A great bike, but not a Harley in spirit. And their electric motorcycle, the Livewire, it flopped. Not because it was a bad bike, but because Harley riders never wanted it in the first place. Instead of leaning into their strengths, Harley is chasing trends. And in the process, they're losing the people who made the brand what it is. The loyalty problem. Has Harley lost its own riders? Harley Davidson has always had the most loyal riders in the world. Once you were in for life. But now, even their most loyal customers are walking away. Go into any Harley dealership and you'll hear the same thing. Old school riders feel abandoned. They don't like the new designs, they don't like the new technology, they don't like the prices, and worst of all, they don't feel heard. Harley has always been a company that listened to its riders, but today, it feels like they're listening to corporate investors more than the people who actually ride their bikes. And when your most loyal customers start to leave, that's when you know you've got a real problem. So here's the question: can Harley Davidson fix this? Or is it too late? The competition is stronger than ever. Harley Davidson used to own the road. There was a time when if you wanted an American cruiser, there was only one choice. But today, the competition is fiercer than ever. Indian motorcycles, Harley's oldest rival, is on the rise. They're leaning into tradition, sticking with big, powerful V-twins, but also modernizing in the right ways. And riders are noticing. Harley has spent decades building brand loyalty, but now, Indian is stealing their riders. And it's not just Indian. The Japanese brands, Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, they've perfected the formula. They build faster, lighter, and more reliable cruisers for thousands less. And younger riders? They're choosing value over brand loyalty. Even in the heavyweight touring market, Harley isn't safe. BMW, Ducati, and KTM are dominating with high-performance, high-tech machines. The days of Harley being the only game in town, they're long gone. And if they don't step up their game, or at least figure out who they're really selling to, they could lose their crown for good. The used market is flooded, and it's killing Harley. Harley Davidson has a strange problem. Their bikes last too long. It's not like the old days where a bike would wear out after a few years and force you to buy new. Today's Harleys, they're built like tanks, and that's not good for business. Because instead of buying new, more riders are turning to the massive used market. A slightly older Road Glide still looks brand new. A 10-year-old Softail still rides like a dream. And the best part? They cost half the price. Harley knows this is a problem. They've tried to control the used market, offering certified pre-owned programs and trade-in incentives. But riders, they aren't falling for it. Why pay a dealer markup when you can buy directly from another rider and save thousands? This is a massive issue for Harley because every time a rider chooses used over new, Harley loses another sale. And when those lost sales start stacking up year after year, that's when companies collapse. The dealership problem. Is Harley killing its own sales? Harley Davidson doesn't just sell motorcycles, they sell an experience. That's why their dealerships are massive, flashy, and packed with merchandise. But for a lot of riders, the dealership experience isn't what it used to be. Prices are insane. Pushy sales tactics are everywhere. And worse, some dealerships treat customers like walking wallets instead of fellow riders. Ever heard of the Harley tax? That's the thousands of dollars riders have to shell out in fees, add-ons, and dealership markups. A bike that should cost $25,000? By the time you walk out the door, it's closer to $30,000. And let's talk about parts. Harley dealerships push expensive brand name accessories when riders could get the same upgrades for half the price elsewhere. This is a huge turnoff, especially for experienced riders who know how much things should actually cost. And when people feel ripped off by the dealership, they start looking elsewhere. They buy used. They go to third-party mechanics. They walk away from Harley entirely. Harley Davidson needs to fix this because a bad buying experience is the fastest way to lose a customer forever. The future of Harley. Can they survive? Harley Davidson is at a crossroads. Sales are down. The competition is stronger than ever. The used market is sucking the life out of new sales, and their own dealerships are driving customers away. So what happens now? Can Harley turn things around, or are we witnessing the slow death of an American legend? They've tried to adapt. They've launched new models, electric bikes and adventure bikes, but none of it has saved them. Because at the end of the day, Harley's problem isn't their bikes, it's their customers. They've lost touch with who they're selling to. Older riders are aging out, younger riders aren't buying in, and the middle class, the people who built Harley Davidson, can't afford them anymore. So here's the big question. Can Harley Davidson survive the next decade, or is this the beginning of the end? The wealth transfer gamble. Harley's last hope? Harley Davidson knows they're in trouble. They've seen the numbers. They know sales are collapsing, and they know that younger riders aren't stepping in to replace the old guard. So, what's their plan? They're waiting for a miracle. Right now, we are on the edge of the biggest wealth transfer in history. The baby boomers, Harley's most loyal customers, hold trillions of dollars in wealth, and soon, that money is going to pass down to their kids, the millennials. Harley's betting that once those millennials inherit their parents' wealth, they'll start buying big, expensive bikes. But here's the problem. Just because millennials get the money doesn't mean they'll spend it on Harleys. Millennials have been shaped by an entirely different economy. They've seen housing costs skyrocket. They've lived through multiple recessions. They're drowning in student debt. And when they finally get their hands on some real money, are they really going to spend it on a $30,000 Harley? Or are they going to invest it, buy property, and secure their financial future? Harley is taking a massive gamble. They're hoping that nostalgia will be enough to bring millennials back. But if they're wrong, there won't be a second chance. Can Harley reinvent itself without losing its soul? Harley has tried to evolve. They've launched new models, they've built electric bikes, they've even entered the adventure bike market. But every time they try something new, they risk losing what made them special in the first place. Harley isn't just a motorcycle company, it's a culture, it's an identity. And if they change too much, they risk alienating the very riders who made them famous. But if they don't change at all, they'll fade into irrelevance. It's a dangerous balancing act. And right now, Harley is slipping. What needs to change? Harley's road to redemption. If Harley wants to survive, they need to act now. The old playbook isn't working anymore. They need to fix three major things. First, the price problem. Harley has priced out too many riders. They need to bring back affordable models, bikes that real working-class riders can actually buy. Not just a cheap entry-level bike, but a real Harley that doesn't cost as much as a car. Second, the dealership problem. Harley dealerships need to stop gouging their customers. The ridiculous markups, the hidden fees, the Harley tax, it all needs to go. Riders are tired of feeling ripped off. Third, they need to reconnect with their community. Harley has lost touch with its riders. They need to listen to what people actually want. They need to show up for their customers, not just their shareholders. Because if they don't, it won't matter how great their bikes are, no one will be left to buy them. Harley Davidson, once the most powerful motorcycle brand in the world, is now fighting for survival. The numbers don't lie. Sales are falling fast, younger riders aren't buying in, and the old-school Harley faithful are aging out of the market. Harley is at a crossroads. One path leads to reinvention, to making bikes that are affordable, accessible, and built for a new generation. The other, a slow, painful decline, until Harley is nothing more than a luxury brand for the ultra-wealthy. And if that happens, the Harley Davidson we know and love will be gone forever. So what do you think? Is Harley too far gone to save? Or can they make one last comeback? Let us know in the comments. And as always, ride safe.